Hey up troops, alyttleton here again with another video, and this time we're going to be looking at aspect ratio and why some players like the screen stretched and others just like it. Hang on, there's something wrong with the camera, hang on. I think that's back to normal. Why some players like to play stretched and why some players don't. I want to make this abundantly clear at the start of this video because I'm not into clickbait. I'm not into putting things out there like, this is the aspect ratio you've got to play on in 2023 if you want it champion. It's nonsense. Aspect ratio is entirely subjective, and all this video is to explain what aspect ratio is and what aspect ratio does. It's not to tell you which one to play. If you're looking to find which aspect ratio to play, this ain't the video. I'm here to try and explain it, and you make your own decision based off the back of that, because it's entirely subjective. There's no right and wrong. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. Now that's out the way. We've all had enough waffling. Let's just get stuck into it. So let's get started then by having a look at the aspect ratios that are available in Siege, and there are a number of them. I don't know how many because I haven't counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 aspect ratios you can use in Siege, okay? So the other two are standard and auto. So starting with 5-4, then we go up to 4-3, then we go up to 3-2, then we go to 16-10, 5-3, 16-9, 19-10, and 21-9. If you know anyone who plays on 21-9, never speak to them again, but we'll go through that shortly because it looks horrendous. Now, what these numbers mean is one of them is how tall the size of the screen is, and one of them is how wide it is. I can't remember which one's forwards or backwards. Probably should have researched that before I looked into this video. However, I have got a good source for us to look at to explain what aspect ratio does. So if I just tab out, we find this post that somebody put on Reddit once upon a time on the main R6 Reddit. Whoever this person is, thank you very much, because this is a great explanation. Aspect ratio, in short, is compressing your screen or making your screen, your display into a certain size, and then your computer sort of forces that onto the size of your monitor, which traditionally is 1920 by 1080. But this shape, this sort of rectangle shape that you're literally looking at this YouTube video on right now. So the reason different aspect ratios get stretched is because let's just look at 5:4, which is the white square. The game will pump out the image of the game into this white square, and then your monitor or the game will then stretch it across the size of your monitor. So imagine now the game is pumping out this white square. We then need to drag it up to this corner here, and the bottom of the white square is probably going to be somewhere near this mouse, right? So from this corner where the white square starts down to this corner, and then what we need to do is stretch it out across the screen. And that's why it's stretched. Now, as you look at the different resolutions, starting with 5:4, which is the most stretched, then 4:3, then 3:2, and you can see as the sizes get across here, the wider the image is, the less it needs to be stretched. Until you get to 21 by 9 and 19 by 10, bear in mind, the game only goes up to 90 FOV. So where you can see the pink square like this, that isn't possible in game. It only goes up to 90. So what you need to do with 19, 10, and 21 by 9 is stretch it the other way and bring it in. It's too wide for the screen, so you need to stretch it in. What's the opposite of stretch? I don't know. You need to unstretch it. You need to make it more narrow, which is why it looks the way it does in game. So let's just have a little flick through in game what the different reses look like. And I've got the help of Young Mute and I have, sorry. So we've got Smoke, sorry, not Mute. Let me just move Smoke around a little bit so he's not against that background where you can't really see him. Let's put him there. Right, okay, fine. So the reason I put Smoke next to a barricade is because the things that look most different on the different aspect ratios are doorways, barricades, and enemies. And it's going to be a really, really interesting way of showing you how different aspect ratios look. So we're going to start with the widest at 5:4 and then work our way back. And look, ultimately, it's like I said at the beginning of the video, this isn't clickbait. It isn't, oh, you've got to use this aspect ratio in 2023, because it's entirely subjective, whatever you feel comfortable with, essentially. So we're on 16 by 9 here. Look at the size of Smoke. Look at the size of Smoke's head. Look at the size of the barricade. Look at the size of the doorway. We're on 16 by 9, sorry. I don't play 16 by 9 at all. I actually play 4:3. But this is super, super narrow to me. Like, really narrow. So what we'll do is we'll go to the most stretched, and we'll have a look how that compares. Just bear in mind what this barricade looks like in 16 by 9, which is what the traditional aspect ratio of the game is. And if we then swap over to 5:4, which is the most stretched, look at how wide this barricade is going to become. Do you know what I mean? How much wider is that? The previous one was like from there to there, right? So you can see it gets a lot wider. However, you now see less around the screen because of how much the screen, you only get that sort of small white square. Let's go back to it. You only get that small white square, which is here, and it's active and stretched out. Therefore, you see less around you. But in my opinion, really, sorry I have to keep tabbing in and out here. It's not the best, I know. But in my opinion, really, all you really care about is that dot in the middle of that crosshair, right? And a little bit either side. So that's the most stretch you can be. That's a little bit too much for me. You can see now by looking at the door as well. Look how much wider that is. It just seems like a smaller door and a wider door, doesn't it? It's not. It's the same size. It's just stretched. And again, look at Smoke. He's way wider than he was. He's a bigger target to hit, but you see less around you. So moving down the different ratios then, and go to 4-3, which is what I traditionally play. This isn't that much different to 5-4. It is definitely less stretched, but not quite as stretched. This is what most people I know play on. And I think it comes from the old CSGO days when we used to use old TRT monitors that were the sort of square shape. I think that's what it comes from, where most FPS players get it from. But I don't know, I just feel things do look a bit weird if you're used to playing 16:9. Like the doors probably look a lot wider. Smoke will certainly be wider and a bigger target. But to me, that I've played on this as long as I've played Siege almost, and it just feels right. So moving down the ratios now, and we've got a lot of similarities from 3-2, 16:10, and 5x3. 3-2 is the most stretch. Well, out of those three, like is the most stretched of these three. Then it comes down to 16:10, then 5-3, and then we're back at traditional res at 16:9. Let's just have a quick look at 3-2. I know a lot of people that play 3-2 as well, where they say the barricade, sorry, the 4-3 is a little bit too much, too stretched. So they go to 3-2 and they think this looks a little bit better. So let's just have a look at 3-2 there. Look at the barricade. Look at Smoke. Picture what that looks like. Now let's flick it back to 4-3. Let's see how much wider it is. It's definitely wider, isn't it? 100% wide. Well, it's not 100%, but you know what I mean. I'm saying it's 100% that I'm sure it's wider. I'm not saying it's 100% wider. It's not going from there to there. You know what I mean. Shut up, Andy. So, yeah. It's a minor difference there, but I've been playing on 3-2. I'll let you into a little secret here. I've been playing on 3-2 recently, and I had a couple of bad nights of Siege, so I changed back to 4-3 because it couldn't have been me that was the problem. It wasn't me having a bad game, obviously. It was definitely the aspect ratio. So I changed back to 4-3 and I started playing better, but it's just all a psychological thing, isn't it? So over to 16:10, we're starting to get, I mean, that to me is drastically different to the two we've just looked at, but you can see it's way less narrow. Smoke is slowly becoming a slender target, and the area of your crosshair is not as wide as it was. The doorways are starting to look a lot more tall and a lot more narrow, but they're not. They're the same size. It's just how we're depicting it in-game. So we go then from 16:10 to 5-3, which is almost back to 16:9, but not quite. Again, Smoke is becoming less and let's just have a look at Smoke there, by the way, and let's go back now to 4-3. Now we're going back to what seems normal again. Just picture that. Yeah, you got that in your mind's eye. Back to 4-3. Look at how much wider he is. You can just see it in the way that he looks, can't you? You can just see it's much wider. Not loads wider. I think the barricades are a better example. So over we go to 16:9, which is traditional res, which is what we started this video on. Now look at Smoke. It looks like he's lost about 2 stone. Stone is a way of saying 14 pounds in England, but no one really knows that in America. So that, yeah, there you go. He's lost 28 pounds. He just looks so much more slender. Look how narrow the barricades are now. Look at the door frame, seems so high. We then go into the realms of ridiculousness with the last two aspect ratios, where we've got 19:10 and 21:9. 19:10. Look at this. Who plays on that? Nobody. That too. Smoke is now malnourished and is really in need of a meal. The barricades, you feel like you can only just fit through them. The doorways seem so high up. No one is playing on this aspect ratio, and if anyone plays on this, on 21:9, you really need to question your life choices. Look at that. As you can see, this is now taller than it is wide, because of the way it's had to been squashed into the screen. This isn't stretched, this is squashed. Earlier on when we said what's the opposite of stretch, we're going to go squashed instead. So you can see now even our crosshair seems smaller and narrower. Smoke is definitely in need of a Big Mac. The door frames seem like, I mean, I actually feel genuinely a bit ill looking at this. Like, I feel a bit unwell. It just doesn't feel right at all. Everything feels off. Not for me. If anyone plays that aspect ratio, I either don't believe you or you're doing it for a laugh. So, taking where are we? I can't even get the menu right. So taking these last two, 19:10 and 21:9 out of the equation, there is no right and wrong answer for what aspect ratio is the aspect ratio you should be playing on. What I recommend you do is go into a free-for-all in the new quick match modes and play a quick match in every single aspect ratio and see how you feel about it. There's something about 4:3 that just sits right with me. That doesn't mean it's going to sit right, and Smokes put some timber on again. That doesn't mean it's going to sit right with you. And I don't, like I said earlier on, this isn't that video that's like, you're using the wrong aspect ratio in 2023. This is what you need to be using. Because ultimately, it's subjective. I like 4:3. There's probably people out there watching this video going, now, you old, bald man, what are you talking about? This looks gross. Everything's so stretched. Why do you play on this? It's horrible. But then if I go back to 16:9, which is what a lot of people also play on, I then say, weird YouTube watcher, why would you play on 16:9? Everything's so narrow. Ultimately, it's what you feel comfortable with, but the long and short of it is that when we have a look at what the aspect ratios mean, 5:4 is the most stretched, all the way down to 16:9, which is normal in inverted commas, and then 19:10 and 21:9 are the most squashed. Don't play these two, but just have a flick from 16:9 all the way to 5:4 or what feels comfortable for you. If you're not sure, 5:4 obviously most stretched, 16:9 is normal. Go at 3:2, which is a nice middle ground between the two. Start at 3:2 and see how you feel. Do you think you want it more stretched? Obviously come back one. Do you want it less stretched? Go back the other way to 5:3. I like 4:3, but again, I am 34 and I've got no hair, so I don't expect everybody agrees with me. But I just wanted to make a little video that sort of highlights what aspect ratio is and what the differences are when you look at things in game, like character models, barricades, and doorways. So there we have it. There are all the different aspect ratios in Siege, and I'm going to say it for a third or fourth time, there is no right or wrong, except for if you play 21:9. Then there's, I mean, if you're comfortable and you're winning games, then good luck to you, but I don't know, man. If you're playing 21:9, I don't even know what to say. I just hope this helps shed some light on the aspect ratio situation, because I, for one, was confused about it for ages. I didn't really understand it. Why is it stretched? What does that mean? So hopefully that's explained it a little bit more. If you've watched the video for 10 seconds, if you've watched it 10 times, or if you've watched it for 10 minutes, thank you. You're a goat. This channel's nothing, and I say it every time, the channel's nothing without people like you that watch these videos. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Cheers for watching. Other than that, I think it wraps it up for another one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!